Hi everyone, my name's Aaron McGuire and today I'm going to talk about more movies I saw from the New York Film Festival. I saw a whole bunch of movies and I'm going to keep talking about them. The next movie I saw was Night of the Kings and it was pretty darn good. The film takes place in an African prison which is highly ritualistic and is pretty much run by the inmates. And one of the rituals is they have one person become the storyteller and that person has to tell a story from sunset until sunrise the next morning. And as this person tells the story, some of the other inmates basically perform the story being told through interpretive dance and impromptu songs. I'm not really sure what I was supposed to get out of this movie as far as a theme, but I thoroughly enjoyed it the entire way through. I love the film's setting, the prison, which is very dark and eerie, and the music also has a rising tension to it. I think some of the songs that are performed a cappella by the inmates is really great and fun to listen to. All the characters feel really distinct in this movie, including Dennis Levant, who I think is awesome. And I love that this movie uses so many different methods of telling a story, all within the same film. And again, I'm not really sure what I was supposed to get out of this movie as far as a deeper meaning, and it doesn't really feel like this movie has any high stakes to begin with. But it was thoroughly enjoyable, it has a unique setting, interesting characters, and I thought it was a really exciting movie overall. And I'm giving Night of the Kings a 7 out of 10. And then I saw Nomadland, and I thought it was okay. I should put a disclaimer though that I had a very massive sinus headache as I was watching this movie, so I was feeling pretty miserable and I didn't really feel like watching it at that time. But usually even if I have a sinus headache and I enjoy a movie enough, I can still get invested in it, but Nomadland did not do it for me. Basically, this movie follows Frances McDormand as she tries different jobs and goes throughout different cities in her van. And along the way, she does meet other nomads, but I found out later that some of these people were actual nomads and they weren't actors. So in a way, this movie kind of services as a semi-documentary, which is really interesting. And without looking anything up afterward, I couldn't really tell who was an actor and who was real, so all the performances do feel very genuine. I think the film's score is great also, and I love the film's cinematography. This film is very slice of life and it doesn't follow a traditional film structure, it mainly just follows the main character as she travels. And though I admire the dedication from the cast and crew, and I really love how the movie was made, I didn't feel like the movie itself left much of an impact on me. And I don't want to discourage anyone from watching this movie as it did have a big impact on a lot of other people, but I just didn't feel like I was really invested in any of the characters. The story is very simple. I just think this movie maybe wasn't for me, as many people seem to really love it. Of course, I think it's a fine movie. I really like the technical aspects, the performances, and the behind the scenes of it. But as far as an emotional connection to any of the characters or the story, this movie didn't really resonate with me. Nomadland gets a wide release on December 4th this year. I'm not really sure if it's going to be in theaters or digitally, but regardless, when it does get released, I do want to try to rewatch it because perhaps my headache was the reason why I didn't enjoy it as much. But again, I did enjoy it just fine, but I wouldn't consider it my favorite movie of the year. And I'm going to give Nomadland a 6 out of 10. And the last movie I'm going to talk about in this video is City Hall. This is a 4.5 hour long documentary that takes place in Boston in 2019, and it's entirely made up of calls, meetings, press conferences, town forums, and different events. And the footage of these events is intercut with beautiful shots of the city and city life. You really get to see the inner workings of this city and some of the efforts that they make to improve the community. And the film does address a lot of the issues with the city, including racial inequality, homelessness, affordable housing, and healthcare. I feel like this movie is such a thorough look into the city, and there are no talking heads or narration in this movie. All of the information is coming straight from the source in real time, and the film does focus on a lot of really interesting people and voices. It feels like the very definition of a documentary. It documents and captures events. And though I usually prefer documentaries with a clear narrative, there's still certainly a craft and a skill to making a documentary like this. And each scene feels very purposeful and engaging. And I'm sure there were several hours of footage that didn't make the final cut, because this movie really does tackle so much and it shows so many different perspectives from the city council to business owners and civilians. And because it's jumping around to so many different issues and people, it never gets boring. And for a movie that's this long, that's really saying a lot. This movie is essentially 4.5 hours of people having productive conversations, listening to each other, and the results that come from it. I was constantly invested in this movie, and I found it to be very hopeful, enjoyable, and thought-provoking. I can see many people being turned off by the film's simplistic style and presentation, but I think what this movie was able to accomplish is really impressive and incredible. And I'm gonna give City Hall a 7 or 8 out of 10. And that's all the movies I'm going to review for this video. Thank you all for watching, thank you for listening, and thank you all for existing. You're all important, you're all loved, and I love you. I still have a whole bunch of movies to review for this festival, so stay tuned for more. And now I'm going to end this video. Woohoo!